Hi everyone, I'm Malhotra, ITPM Senior Trading Mentor, and today I want to discuss the sad situation in the Middle East and how it's affecting markets and what you can possibly do on the back of this. Now, obviously, the situation in the Middle East is troubling and confusing on so many fronts. While the human side of you should be troubled by the death and violence in the region, there isn't much any of us can do, unfortunately, other than donate money, hope it gets in the right hands, and pray for less civilian casualties. Now, the confusing side to most of you, I imagine, if you're trading, is the market response, or should I say that lack thereof market response to this event. As of the time of this filming, the S&P is essentially unchanged since Friday, October 6th. And remember that initial Hamas attack occurred that weekend, so the markets didn't open and have a chance to react until October 9th. Now, while the broader market is flat, there are some big moves that are rather obvious. I mean, oil, for example, was an obvious beneficiary any time there was a Middle East unrest. You know, the energy stocks have followed with the XLE, which is the integrated oil ETF, up about 7.5%, and the XLP, which is the oil and gas E&P ETF, up about 10%. The ITA, which is the defense and aerospace ETF, is up about 5% since then. Now, looking historically, these are obvious longs and somewhat unsurprising if you have any market background. You know, on the downside, there haven't been any sectors that are down huge. And when you think about it, it kind of makes sense. You take the human element out of it, because as of right now, and hopefully it stays that way, it's a regional contained conflict, and it does not yet have any wide-reaching market effects, despite the very sad and troubling situation over there. Now, however, there was one very surprising move that has caught my eye, and this may set up well going forward, especially if there is some kind of détente in the region. That sector is cybersecurity. Now, Israel has a very heavy presence in the cybersecurity and the security software sector. Israel, due to their young, educated population, has been a huge source of talent and development in this area. And many of the so-called market experts would have thought a war in the Middle East would clearly be a negative for these companies, given Israel's exposure to this sector. Now, it's understandable, you know, given that many of their that workforce would be off to war, or not wanting to work, or be unwilling to work. Now, that would be completely understandable and defensible, as the young Israelis clearly have much more important things on their mind rather than companies, you know, things like saving their loved ones and protecting their country and their right to survive. Obviously, that's much more important to them in the short term and probably the long term. You know, however, while that labor force has nobly tended important to other things, surprisingly, their companies have shown relative strength. Let's look at some specific examples. Like Checkpoint Software, for example, CHKP is an IT security firm which is headquartered in Tel Aviv, and that stock is essentially unchanged since the attack. CyberArk Software, CYBR, it's an identity management company. It's co-headquartered in Tel Aviv as well, Massachusetts. That stock is also unchanged since the attack. You know, even companies not headquartered in Israel but have lots of exposure to the region have held up pretty well. So what that tells me is that there are tailwinds in this sector and possible very good trades to the upside going forward, whether there's some kind of resolution or even if not, for a while. You know, also thinking about it, perhaps they're rallying because, you know, this is showing that any war, whether it's in the Middle East, the Ukraine, one is fought in Taiwan, you know, wherever it would be, all these wars are now fought on multiple fronts, including cyber. This is not like World War II or World War I with just boots on the ground. All wars will be fought on multiple fronts, and cyber is clearly one of the main battlefields. So that's going to force both companies and governments to increase their spending in this area going forward, no matter what, even if there is peace for the time being. And maybe that explains the relative strength of names in these sectors, you know. And I strongly feel the ones that have done and will continue to do even better are the ones that the market feels are less exposed to Israel, as opposed to the ones I just mentioned. Like some examples are Palo Alto Networks, PANW. It's up 6% since October 6th. And that's even though that company's made acquisitions in the region and is close to acquiring two Israeli startups. Rapid7 RPD is up about 10% since October 6th. Zscaler is up about 4.5% since the attack. Zscaler has some exposure to Israel, but it's not huge. One name I really like, and it's a name that I've had in my portfolio for a while, is Crowdstrike. Crowdstrike's been up 7% since the attack. I really think all these names potentially have big upside, but it's up to you to do your own fundamental work and to compare this. And there's probably some other names that I did not mention that also fit this criteria. Keep in mind, in the last 30 days, Palo Alto, Rapid7, Zscaler, and CrowdStrike, they're all up about 10 to 12%. So some of the strength has been previously to the attack, and this attack has not slowed it down. Comparing that to the QQQs, which is the broader tech ETF, that's down close to 2% in the last month. So there's clear outperformance in this group of stocks versus technology as a whole. Or even compare it to the IGV, which is simply the software ETF. That stock is relatively flat over the last 30 days. So that might be even a better comparison to these to the cybersecurity sector as a whole. So when you look at this, this under the radar rally can, in my mind, will likely continue, and there are probably calendar spreads or verticals that do make sense. I think some of these names could actually push back to near their all-time highs if all things go right in short order. Like if CrowdStrike rallied 20 to 30% by the end of the year, there are some excellent risk-reward trades out there. Like, for example, looking here, you could buy the December 200-250 call spread for about $8.20. The stock goes to $250 or higher, you would have over a 5-to-1 risk-reward. Keep in mind, $250 is still 13% below its all-time high, so there could be more room to run there. If you want to get more aggressive with a higher break-even, but potentially higher risk-reward, maybe look at the December 210-250 call spread. You can pay around $5.10 for that. So should the stock go to $40, $250, you can make $40 per spread minus what you paid for the call spread. You can make close to a 7-to-1 risk-reward. Remember this, whenever there are geopolitical events, there are opportunities to make money, especially if you think outside the box. Do this. You let the rest of the market play checkers, and you play chess. Checkmate, boys and girls. I'm Raj Malhotra. It's been my pleasure. I'll see you guys on the other side. Be safe and trade well.